Times NBA players fought their own fans. Before the COVID-19 virus made its way through America and the NBA was forced to finish its season in a bubble at Disney World in Orlando, NBA games were some of the most intimate and up-close sporting events that fans with enough money for front row seats could experience. If someone sat courtside, they were literally inches away from the action and could hear and see almost everything that happened in that given game. NBA arenas are set up so as many people as possible can have that as an experience. And in theory, this is a perfect idea and how it should be. However, there have been times that people have abused that privilege and really crossed the line with players. Whether that be common heckling, going too far with insults about a player, or even throwing things at players, there have been times that fans have acted way out of line, and it has caused players to become rattled by it, or so upset that they have found it necessary to retaliate. We will be looking at some of those moments today, and going over times that NBA players fought their own fans. Ron Artest and the Indiana Pacers. The first moment is one of the most notorious sports brawls, not just in NBA history, but in all of sports. It resulted in 9 players being suspended for a total of 146 games combined, fines totaling a combined $11 million, and even 5 players being arrested and charged with assault. They would go on to serve a year of probation and community service. The fans who were involved in this brawl also faced punishment as well. They also faced criminal charges, were banned from going to Detroit Piston games for the rest of their lives, and caused the NBA to increase their security between fans and players, as well as changing their policies on serving alcohol at games. Going into the 2004-2005 season, both the Pistons and the Pacers were contenders to come out of the Eastern Conference and participate in the NBA Finals. The Pistons were led by Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, and Tayshaun Prince. The Pacers were led by Reggie Miller, Metta World Peace known as Ron Artest at the time, Jermaine O'Neal, and Steven Jackson. Both teams were heated rivals and faced off in the Eastern Conference Finals in the previous season, so there was already bad blood between the Pistons and the Pacers. The event started with 45.9 seconds left in the game, with the Pacers up 97-82. Artest would foul Ben Wallace. Wallace took offense to this and forcefully shoved Artest. After the shove, Artest went to the scorer's table and grabbed a microphone in an attempt to talk to a local reporter and remove himself from the situation while things escalated on the court. However, going to the scorer's table wound up making the situation so much worse. A fan threw a cup of beer at Artest that hit him. As a result, he furiously stormed into the stands, where he began a physical altercation with the man that he believed was the one that threw the cup. It was later found out that Artest had the wrong man. This is when chaos ensued, and players came into the stands to help out their teammates fight fans, and fans came out of the woodwork to test their might against their favorite NBA stars. This was the most violent situation in a televised NBA game, and is the only time that fans were involved in an altercation to that degree. This altercation basically finished any hopes to make the finals for the Pacers, and the Pistons also faced multiple suspensions. The suspended Pacers players were Ron Artest, who missed the rest of the season and playoffs, Steven Jackson, who was suspended 30 games, Jermaine O'Neal, who was suspended 15 games, Anthony Johnson, who missed 5 games, and Reggie Miller, who was suspended a single game. As I mentioned, the Pistons faced many suspensions as well, although they were not as harsh as those that the Pacers faced. Ben Wallace was suspended 6 games, Chauncey Billups faced 1 game, Derek Coleman missed 1 game, and Eldon Campbell was also suspended 1 game. Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, Anthony Johnson, and Anthony Harrison all faced legal action for their roles in the altercation as well. This is easily the most embarrassing situation in NBA history, and it tanked the Pacers' season, while the Pistons faced their suspensions and still made it to the NBA Finals. It is arguable that they could have had a chance to win the Finals if they had all been able to play together in the games that they missed due to suspension. Dennis Rodman. The next moment comes from Dennis Rodman in the 1997 season. In a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Rodman kicked a cameraman. After grabbing a rebound, Rodman fell to the ground and thought it was because the cameraman had intentionally tripped him. So he reared back and kicked the cameraman right in the groin, in what had to be one of the most painful experiences of the guy's life. Rodman was suspended 11 games because of this incident, and was fined $25,000. However, just the suspension and fine was not the end of this incident for Rodman. The cameraman Eugene Amos took Rodman to court over the incident. Rodman made a public apology and had a private conversation with Amos, and they settled the case out of court with Rodman paying the cameraman $200,000. Rodman's lawyer was quoted as saying, "Both men are going to be going on with their lives. They had a cordial conversation that I think allows both of them to move forward without any ill will at all. Along with his suspension, Rodman also had to undergo counseling. While this was a major distraction for the Chicago Bulls during the 1996-1997 season, they still pulled it together to win the NBA championship that same year. At the time of Rodman's suspension, it was the second longest suspension in NBA history, and with him being suspended without pay, he missed out on over $1 million. Charles Barkley. The next moment of an NBA player fighting a fan comes from Hall of Famer and current analyst on NBA on TNT, Charles Barkley. This was a big headline when it happened, and was brought up in recent years by LeBron James after Barkley spoke negative things about him. Throughout his career, Barkley was known as a tough player who is not to be messed with. Earlier in the same season, he was suspended for fighting Pistons big man Bill Laimbeer. However, this incident was much more heinous, even though in Barkley's defense, it may have been warranted, but it was just poorly executed. According to Barkley, a man in the stands was hurling racial insults toward him, and in the heat of the moment, Barkley barked back at the man and attempted to spit on him. However, Barkley's aim was a little off, and instead of hitting the heckler, he spit on an 8-year-old girl in the stands. In an interview, he did not seem to show as much sympathy as he probably should have for spitting on a little girl, even if it was not his intention. He was quoted as saying, "You do stupid things, and stuff like that happens. I just have to live with a stupid mistake. He was walking toward me, and I spit at him. I was tired, and I didn't have enough foam in my mouth. It went everywhere. I made a mistake." This seemed to be an incident that could derail Barkley's otherwise promising career, as he was one of the most talented players in the league at the time. However, he took his time during the suspension to take a real look at himself, and determine the man that he wanted to be and be remembered as. He was quoted as saying, "I was sitting in a hotel room, and I was like, dude, what the heck is wrong with you? What are you so angry about?" From that day forward, every time I played basketball, I said, just let the people see your talent. You don't have to be mad at anybody else. And so that was the turnaround for me. After this, Barkley went on to win the Most Valuable Player award during his time in the league, be a part of the Olympic men's basketball dream team, and end his career being a Hall of Famer. Marcus Smart. The following incident does not come from a player's time in the NBA, but rather an incident between a player and a fan during his time in college. But the player would end up in the NBA, so we're gonna count it. That player is Marcus Smart. During his time at Oklahoma State, he would shine as one of the best players in college basketball. However, this incident would go on to greatly hurt his draft stock, and raise questions about his character from many of the teams that were scouting him. According to an article from ESPN, Smart tried to block Jay Crockett's dunk attempt from behind with 6.2 seconds to go, but stumbled out of bounds behind the basket. As he was being helped up, he exchanged words with a fan in the front row, before lunging at the fan and pushing him with 2 hands. The fan, wearing a black Texas Tech shirt, stumbled backward, but did not fall. Smart then walked away, pointing back in the fan's direction. Officials assessed a technical foul, but did not eject him, and he remained on the bench until the final buzzer. Fans near the Oklahoma State bench heard Smart tell the coach that he was called the N-word, which would have more than enough explained why Smart reacted the way that he did. However, the fan claimed that he just called him a piece of crap, which when listening back to the video, sounds much closer to what was said than what Smart told his coach. The fan said afterward when he was interviewed about the incident that he just wanted to take the opportunity the interview was giving him to clear his name, and would not return to any Texas Tech games if that was what the school had decided. The Big 12 decided to give Smart a 3-game suspension, which could have been why Smart dropped to the 6th overall pick of the 2014 draft to the Boston Celtics, when before the season had started, he was projected to be the number 1 overall pick. Smart has had a successful career with the Celtics, and has navigated the logjam that they previously had at the guard position very well. He has established himself as a consistent starter on one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, as well as one of the best defenders in the entire NBA. Mike Scott. The final player fighting a fan does not come from an NBA court, but rather an off-the-court incident with the Philadelphia 76ers forward, Mike Scott. Scott went to a Philadelphia Eagles football game when they were playing against his favorite team, then named the Washington Redskins. It is clear that the Eagles fans said something to him and initiated the fight, which was a very dumb decision on his part, considering that Scott is 6 feet and 7 inches and weighs 237 pounds. In general, fighting a professional athlete never seems like a good decision. Scott easily threw the Eagles fan to the ground. However, the 76ers and the NBA had to look into the situation. A representative of the 76ers was quoted as saying, "We are aware of the situation and are in process of gathering more information. We will have no further comment at this time." Scott did not face any sort of suspension due to the incident. However, his Redskins were not able to put down the Eagles as easily as Scott did their fan, and they lost the game with a final score of 29-20. Final thoughts. In conclusion, due to the NBA and college basketball being set up in a way that players are so close to fans, and the fans are almost able to say anything they want to the players, it is bound to happen that a fan will go too far, and an altercation will ensue. Whether that be a fan throwing a drink at Artest, being in the player's way like the cameraman who got into an altercation with Rodman, using alleged racial slurs like what happened to Charles Barkley and Marcus Smart, or even when off the court, someone provoked NBA players like the incident that happened with Mike Scott. However, over 99% of the time, the players keep their cool, and the fans only go as far as heckling that is socially acceptable in a sports setting. But when they exceed what's acceptable, it can get ugly, and can even lead to jail time, suspensions, fines, and injuries. Thank you for watching another UpNext Sports video. Be sure to like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with some player and fan fights that we missed, and be sure to join us next time for more basketball content similar to this.